On April 26, 1988, Jeffrey Lynn Cox took a rifle to school and held a humanities class of about 60 students hostage for over 30 minutes. On January 18, 1993, Scott Pennington shot his English teacher who had given him a poor grade. He took his father's gun and shot her and the school's custodian and held the class hostage for 20 minutes. In December of 1997, Michael Carneal shot 8 fellow students. All of them had one thing in common. They were inspired by the novel Rage, a novel written by Stephen King under his pen name Richard Bachman. The Carneal shooting was the last straw for Stephen King, and he demanded that they stop printing the book. Rage is no longer available. I found a copy on the internet, read it, and this is my review. Heating up lunch, and I just want to say, give you an update. I finished 4 chapters and it's an absolute page turner. I think Stephen King's writing is very visual and it just makes sense because he's arguably the only author in history to have so many of his works adapted to the silver screen. That said, I don't know if I'm biased in my reading because since I already know the consequences and the premise of the story, I don't know if I'm reading way too much into it. Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna finish this lunch and then get back to reading. The story is about a student, Charles Decker, who is triggered to a point where he sets his locker on fire, takes his father's gun, shoots a couple of teachers, and then takes his classroom as hostage. The story is written in first person, which makes it all the more easier for the reader to relate to the protagonist. I'm literally 40 pages away from finishing it, and the story is so unexpected. I wasn't at all thinking it would turn out like this. It is a very small read because I started reading it in the morning. I'm gonna finish this and then... Now this part is what intrigued me because this is where the violence escalates, and I think this is why the book became what it did. It's obvious from the conversations that he has with the people leading the negotiations that he isn't doing this to get money or to get a car or anything tangible like that, which makes him akin to Joker, who does things for no explicit reason.
All you care about is money. This town deserves a better class of criminal, and I'm gonna give it to him.
In a classroom of 24 people, Ted Jones, one of the students who's taken hostage by Decker, is perhaps the only voice of sanity, and his character development is perhaps the most human. While the rest of his classmates move on over to the darker side, even if he survives the experience at the end, his fate is truly, truly tragic because his fate is equivalent to the death of hope, to the death of humanity, and the triumph of evil over good. Because at the end, Decker gets away with having to serve time in prison because he's found not guilty based on the charges of insanity. And I think writing the story like this, underlying and implying the failure of justice, was the fuel and the impetus that the real life shooters needed to do what they did because they believed that they could get away with it. What I took from the story is that the story is about degrees of sadism. Now, Decker slips in between 2 types of sadism, tyrannical and explosive. He's an explosive sadist when he sets his locker on fire or shoots his teachers, or when he takes out his anger by holding people hostage. He turns tyrannical when he instigates and provokes his classmates to turn on against each other. And when he forces people in administrative capacities and the law enforcement to cower and submit to his demands, and this gives him a sense of satisfaction. The rest of the classroom, however, display everyday sadism, meaning, while most of us may refrain from hurting each other intentionally, we may enjoy a situation that encourages it, and we may use that as a channel for, say, humiliation. Which is perhaps the reason why there's a student that Decker lets out to go use the bathroom. And instead of making a run for it or even trying to escape, she returns to the classroom wanting to participate and engage further. I found The Guardian's review of the book to perfectly sum it up. It reads, where so many of King's early works focus on the true horror being human themselves, they usually pick a figure to single out. Rage doesn't. Rage says we are all capable of falling. It just depends how far. The rest of the video is a tribute to the memory of those fallen.
Does this darkness have a name? This cruelty, this hatred? How did it find us? Did it steal into our lives, or did we seek it out and embrace it? What happened to us? That we now send our children into the world like we send young men to war, hoping for their safe return, but knowing that some will be lost along the way. Does this darkness have a name? Is it your name?